Everybody, my name is Sydney York and today I'm going to be talking to you about the lack of parental involvement and how it affects students. So the purpose of this video is to inform you about how the lack of parental involvement is affecting student success, to collaborate with each other to determine strategies to solve issues and identify any barriers we may face, and for me to provide enough research and evidence and strategies for you to create a plan to implement on your own by the end of this video. What is the problem? The problem that I keep running into and that I keep seeing within education is the lack of parental involvement and support in their child's education. Research has shown that a lack of parental involvement is a significant contributing factor to the achievement gap. And I don't know what your school is like, but from a personal experience, I have taught a lot of students with big achievement gaps. And just as a third-year teacher, I feel like I've seen a lot of students come to me that already have huge gaps. And I've always wondered what it was that was contributing to that. What was causing that to happen? So when I did this research for my master's degree, it was interesting to me that parental involvement and the lack of parental involvement kept showing up when I looked at reasons for the achievement gap and what parental involvement or the lack thereof affects in education. Because I see at my own school that we have a lack of parental involvement. So when I saw those two connect, it really didn't shock me after the fact when I got to thinking about how my own school struggles with getting parents involved in their child's education and the achievement gaps that I see. So while I was doing some research, it was interesting to me to see some of the reasons why parents don't get involved. So one, I think this is the first one that we always think of, that they have no time. They can't get off work, they're too busy, or they just straight up don't want to. But some other things that I found was that some of the parents may be embarrassed of their socioeconomic status if they live in poverty. If they live in poverty, education may also not be the most important thing that's on their mind at the time when they have other issues that they're having to solve, such as living in poverty. They also may not have an education themselves or understand what's going on in the education. They may not know how to help their own child with homework or with anything like that. And they may have possible negative attitudes towards education due to bad experiences. And I'll just share a quick story that made this more real for me as I was doing this research for my master's. I had a parent this year during parent-teacher conferences who admitted to me and my team teacher that she wanted the best for her child, but she didn't have an education herself. So she wasn't able to help her child with homework when she brought it home. So that's why she wasn't getting that help at home. And I had never thought about it in that aspect of the parents possibly not having an education themselves and not being able to do third grade level work with their child. So it really opened my eyes and made me think about what I had been learning about throughout my program, and it just really made me relate. And I think that was another reason that this has been a topic that has stood out to me, because it's growing more and more, the achievement gaps and the lack of parental involvement. And I just see firsthand how it's affecting these students and how it's really difficult for the parents too. I think it's easy for some of us as educators to just think, oh, well, they're horrible parents. They just don't want to. They don't want to help their children. They're sorry. But I think we don't think a lot of times about the fact that some parents just aren't able to. They don't have the education themselves, and they're a little bit embarrassed about it. Why involvement matters? There are several reasons and several pros to why involvement matters, why parental involvement matters in education. The first thing is higher self-esteem and stronger social skills. There's also higher graduation rates if the parents are involved in their education and are pushing them and are helping them with their homework outside of school. There's improved and increased academic performance, lower special education placements or students in tiers, so not as many students in Tier 2 and Tier 3, increased motivation, and less behavior issues. Some possible strategies that I had thought about and that I had done research and found was to create a positive relationship with parents and students. This is, I think, the very first step that we need to take in fixing and solving the issue of not having parental involvement. Creating those positive relationships with parents and students. And one way that you can do that is by contacting parents for positive behavior and actions and not just negative. Because then when they hear from you, they're more willing to, because they know you see the good and the bad. You're not always only contacting them for the negatives over and over and over again. One thing that my school does is our administration has us or encourages us to reach out to the parents of all of our students within the first couple weeks of school and just share something encouraging or positive or great that their child has done in the first couple weeks of school to really create that positive relationship with those parents. The next thing that you could do is support their child outside of education. And an example of this would be attending their extracurricular activities, whether it be going to watch a play that they're in, going to watch a sports game that they do, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, whatever. It could be going to a music recital if they do that. Anything that's outside of education to show the parents that you don't only care about education and grades, that you truly care about their child as a whole person. The next strategy is hold engaging events that parents can attend and host family-centered events. One thing that my school does every year is we have multiple events in the evening, sometimes on Saturdays, sometimes on Fridays, where parents can come, and it helps raise money for us to do more things with students, but it's also a great way to get the parents and the families out there to a safe place, to a place that teachers and the parents can really communicate and get to know one another and build those positive relationships. One example of this is every year at the beginning of the year we have a block party, and we have bouncy houses and games in the gym, cotton candy, snacks that they could go buy, a bunch of different stations that they could go just have fun. And that is always a big turnout where we can see the students in a different area other than just sitting down learning. And it has worked great. We've always had good turnouts, but now we just need to get the parents to transfer that into their education. But holding events, engaging events that parents can attend, and hosting family-centered events is a possible strategy to fix that issue. Excuse me. You also can use video tutorials to help parents understand. By that, I mean, for example, for my parent that didn't understand multiplication for her child and being able to help with single-digit multiplication, her math teacher, my team teacher, could have created a video explaining to her how you solve the problem for single digit multiplication. So that way she has something to go back and look on and learn herself, so then she can help her child at home as well. Another example of this would be we have just implemented a new curriculum, and my team teacher has videoed and shown the parents what their weekly assessment looks like for us to send out to them, so they know what their child's doing every week, what they're expected to do every week on their weekly assessments. The last thing or strategy that I came up with was to offer flexible opportunities for parents to volunteer. Not just always at the same time, not always during the day, the work day where parents can't come, but flexible opportunities that they can kind of work around and volunteer if they would like to. So at this time, whether you are by yourself watching this video or you're sitting with a team, we're going to take a moment. You can pause this video to reflect and discuss. And you're going to be reflecting on what strategies can you think of to help solve this issue. I've mentioned some to you. Now, if you have any new ones, I would love for you to go add them to the Padlet so I can learn myself and so you can learn from other people can learn from you. So you can pause this video for a minute and reflect and discuss on that, and then start this video back when you're ready. Again, the Padlet link will be linked in the description. So there are some possible barriers to solving this issue. We have harped on how important communication is, and it is very important. But we all know as educators that there are times that you reach out to the parents and you hear nothing back from them. So there are some possible barriers and some possible things that could keep us from reaching those goals even when we have those strategies in place. And the first one of those could be that parents or families may not want to communicate, therefore they don't. And it's as simple as that. They don't want anything to do with it, so they don't. They also may be negative towards any kind of contact for different reasons. Parents could have had a bad experience with something or someone related to education, and that's keeping them from not wanting to communicate. They could have a lack of resources such as transportation, internet access, anything else that you could think of that could keep them from being involved or coming to the school and volunteering or being more involved in their child's education. And the last thing that I found interesting was the feeling like they do not belong. And I found that this goes back to people living in poverty. They may feel like they don't belong because they don't have the education or because of their socioeconomic status. It could cause them to feel like they don't belong, so they are reserved. They hold back and don't get involved as much as they could. So at this time again, you are going to pause the video in just a second and you're going to reflect and discuss one more time to think of any other barriers to solving this issue that maybe you've thought of or that you've seen at your school. There's a section for this on Padlet as well. I would love for you to go add to it because there may be some barriers that I didn't think of or that I didn't come across while doing research. There were a couple action steps that I came up with after doing my research, and the biggest one that I saw was communicate and collaborate often with parents, with co-workers, but mostly for this reason, communicate and collaborate often with parents. This can be through phone calls, a quick phone call to say, hey, so-and-so had a great day today. Hey, so-and-so went up so many points on their map test today. You could send them a quick text message and say they had a great day. Or, of course, call or text if you're having some issues or some concerns. And parent conferences. This can be over the phone. This can be in person. But parent conferences are very important. I'm sorry, y'all. The second one was to create positive relationships with parents. These are the two most important points that came up every single place every article that I read, every place that I looked. Communicating, collaborating, and creating positive relationships with parents were always at the top. When creating positive relationships with parents, you should be communicating often. It helps to listen to the parents and give some solutions if that's what they're looking for. You can provide resources as needed, such as I had a parent recently reach out and say that their child was going to start some tutoring to help them get caught up, and asked if I had any paperwork or activities that she could do for tutoring. So I've been sending those home, and she has been very, very grateful for that as well. And we have just created that positive relationship, and it's grown stronger since doing that. And again, attending extracurricular activities. That will go a long way. So before we end, I wanted to give you 2 communication resources. I have not used Class Dojo personally, but I do have coworkers who have, and they have loved it. You can reward points on Class Dojo. You can communicate with parents on Class Dojo. They can communicate with you, if I'm not mistaken. And School Status is the same way. School Status is the one that my school actually uses, so I can speak a little bit more on it. You do not reward points on School Status, but you can text parents. You can group text all of your parents. You can individually text all of your parents. You can phone call all of your parents. They can call you. They can text you. And all of your phone calls are recorded, so if you ever needed to go back to those. All of your text messages stay there, so if you ever needed those. And there's more information that I personally don't use a lot that's on School Status, such as attendance and different little things like that we don't really use School Status for, but it is important if you need it there. It is there if you need it. But these are 2 resources that I wanted to give you to maybe take back to your team. If you don't have a good communication resource at your school, maybe take these back to your administration or to your team and discuss these and look into these to see if this is something that you could use to communicate with parents more. So I have provided you with a lot of research, some strategies, some barriers, and why parental involvement is so important in education. So what I want you to do now is I want you to take this information and do some research on your own. I have provided you with it. You'll see my references in a minute to show that I've done the research. You've seen some strategies, but now I would encourage you to go do some research of your own. Dig a little, see what you could find that may help you with your specific school. I would share this information with your team and with your coworkers. If they're not there with you now, I would share it with them, so that way you could all discuss what would work best for your school. You could make a plan for what would work best for your school. If you may be on the leadership team, or on the PTO, or maybe on the PBIS committee, where you could discuss this with that committee or with that group and come up with a plan for what would work best for your school. And that is what I'm going to do with mine as well. So I would be very interested to see what plans y'all would come up with. So if you have any plans or any ideas or anything else that you can think of that's on that Padlet, please go add to it, because even though I'm presenting you with this information now, I'm still trying to grow and learn too. And that's what we're here for, is to collaborate and to work together as well. So these are my references where I got all of this information. You can see the title of all the articles that I went. So if you are interested in going and looking at some of the places that I did, here they are for you if you want to go take a look at them. I thank you for taking your time to listen to this, and I hope it encouraged you and enlightened you and helped you out in some sort of way. Thank you.